Hi, you're back in my studio today, so welcome. And I've got quite a bit of work to do on the front of the Tudor house, and I've already done a lot of that, so I didn't want to bore you with that. I thought I would show you a couple of things that have come up. One of our subscribers, Kathleen, is doing a kind of a 6-room house in a sort of a childhood fantasy kind of theme, and I thought that I would show you a few things that I've done on that genre myself, and you might get some ideas from that. So the first little one I did was a very early room box, and I did it from a book that I used to read to my son, and it was called The Cross Little Red-Headed Woman. And she was in love with the sea captain, and she had a little cottage at the end of the pier, and she used to sit and knit and wait for him to turn up. And so I had collected a whole lot of little nautical things and decided to make this room box about her. The figurines are made by a friend of mine, Rio Cox, the little ones. I made the lady, Rio made the children. And then I moved on to Rupert Bear, and Rupert Bear was a favourite of mine when I was a kid. I never knew whether to read the stories or read the pictures first. Could never make up my mind. So I made the walls kind of on my computer to look like a storybook house, and then I made all the figures that fitted in. And this is Christmas time, and all those books sort of revolved around Christmas because they were a Christmas annual. And then next door is Rupert's mother, Mrs. Bear, and she's entertaining her friend Nanny Goat, and Nanny is knitting a jumper. She always brings the knitting with her, and she always brings her little kitten with her. And of course she's knitting an Angora jumper, isn't she? She's a goat. So that's there. I had fun making the goat. Never made one before. And so now we have to take a little pause while I take you across the other side of my studio to show. So this is a work in progress. I sort of work on this when I feel like I need to give myself a bit of a treat and get away from the reality of life. And this is about the Faraway tree. Now, Enid Blyton was an English writer, and she wrote about 800 books for children. Amongst them was The Famous Five and The Secret Seven. And she also wrote a series on the Enchanted Forest. And this Faraway tree was a tree in this enchanted forest. And when the children discovered it, they found it had all these inhabitants. It had, on the ground floor, it had Mrs. Washalot and her friend, who was the saucepan man's mother, who baked. So on the ground floor, you've got a laundry, and you've got a oven there for the baker, and you've got a little laundry in there, and they've got a little bed in blue gingham, bunk bed. And then on the bottom I'm doing a cafe for fairies, but I haven't finished that yet. That requires a bit of thought. Then I've got the angry pixie halfway up the tree, who's angry about everything. And we've got Mr. Saucepan Man and Mr. What's-His-Name. And Mr. What's-His-Name sleeps a lot and snores a lot and can never remember what his name is. And the Saucepan Man is an enigma. Never worked out why he goes around draped with saucepans. And then we've got Silky Fairy, named because she has silky blonde hair. And she's got a sweet little room, but they're very hard to kind of see into because I just did them as I was making the tree. And then on the same floor we've got Dame Slap. Now that's probably not politically correct. She was a school teacher and she's got a rather mean looking grin. You wouldn't really want to be a school teacher, or her as your school teacher. And so she lives in here. And then you've got the wise old owl who's fallen over off his perch and I can't get at him. And he is the one that everybody goes to if they want advice. And right at the top of the tree, almost, you've got Mr. Moonface, and these are his digs, but I haven't made him yet. He's a pixie. He's a moon-faced pixie. He's got rather flash bed. And then right at the very top you have lands, and these lands change all the time, and I've had problems with these lands, so this is why I've got this unfinished state. But I've also, while I was doing this, I've threaded some Christmas lights down a central tube, so when I turn the lights on, they all shine down through the tree, right down to the bottom. So everybody gets a bit of blue light, even if it's just through a hole in the wall. And so the land, now, one of the boys was told not to climb onto that part, and he did, of course, and he got trapped in snowland, which the snowmen tried to make him a slave. And then my girls, my grandchildren, think it should be the land of sweets. So every time they get an opportunity, they buy me bottles of sweets as a hint. Like, I've got to make the land of sweets on the top, and I think I've got no choice. I think I have to do that. So I'll just tell you a little bit about the construction. What I did is I did 4 round floors, and I drilled holes in them that all matched, and I put dowel right through all the holes, and I fixed the floors in place so the dowel held them all straight. And then all this finish is actually tissue, or it's these handles that you get on your shopping bags, and I've unravelled them, and they make really good bark. They come like that on your shopping bag, and you just untwist them. It takes a wee bit of time, and they turn out to be like that. And so a lot of these bits are either tissue, or those painted, or sometimes even rag. And I can drape rag, so I've draped that bit of rag, and I've made the trunk, and so that's all been built up from those 3 things. And so I think that that's pretty much all I've got to talk about with that little place. And so, yes, for me, I have to make Mr. Moonface, and I have to do the land of sweets, which I'm really not quite sure how I'm going to do. And how do you depict a land that changes all the time? I mean, I think I might have to have a little band of fluffy clouds around the top. And so if anybody wants to know any more about this more detail, it was in one of my issues of my magazines. I think it was 27. And if anybody's got access to my digital magazines, they should have a look. It details what I've just said, and has it all written out. So they're quite fun to do, these little exercises. And I'm always interested to see what other people do too in that way. So please let me know if you've done something, and maybe I can write about it.